Episode 2, The Antlers' Shadow. The relentless rain mirrored the storm brewing inside Sheriff Brody. Razor Jackson's death report lay on his desk, a single, impossibly sharp antler jutting from his chest. The coroner's report offered no answers, only deepening the mystery. Outside, the wind howled, carrying with it the scent of pine and something else. Something ancient and wild. Something ancient and wild. Jedensjouth. Something ancient and wild. Brody reread the statements from the Native American community. Their cryptic comments, once dismissed, now carried a chilling weight. They spoke of balance, of respect for the land, of consequences for those who dared to disrupt the ancient order. The whispers of the deer woman, once dismissed as folklore, echoed in his mind, amplified by the growing unease in the town. The official explanation, a bizarre accident, failed to quell the fear. The death of young Thomas, poisoned by Razor's tainted meth, remained a raw wound in the community. Razor's death, while offering a grim satisfaction to some, only intensified the dread. The deer woman, a legend reborn, had become a terrifying reality. People avoided the woods, their fear fueled by chillingly precise killings and persistent rumors of deer tracks appearing seemingly out of nowhere. That night, Brody dreamt. The forest loomed, dense and oppressive, twisted trees clawing at the blood-red moon. The air was thick with pine, and something primal, something ancient. He saw her then, the deer woman. A fleeting glimpse, a ripple in the darkness, her eyes burning like the gnarled roots of ancient trees. In one dream, he saw the aftermath of a hunt. Razor lay lifeless. The impossibly sharp antler protruded from his chest. Her form was a blur, her white dress a ghostly ripple before vanishing, leaving only the trail of delicate deer tracks. In another, he witnessed a scene he'd never seen in reality. A young boy forced to swallow a pill, a woman's face looming, a flash of steel. He heard the boy's choked cry. These dreams weren't nightmares. They were terrifyingly real. The next day, Brody visited Chief Running Bear. The chief, his grief masked by stoicism, confirmed the community's belief in the deer woman. He spoke of ancient spirits, of justice meted out beyond the reach of human law. He spoke of a delicate balance, disrupted by Razor's cruelty, a balance now restored by the deer woman's vengeance. He offered no answers, only a grim acceptance of the supernatural forces at play. Brody returned to his office, the rain still falling. He looked at the antler, an impossibly sharp, perfectly formed weapon, unlike anything he had ever seen. It wasn't a mere murder weapon. It was a symbol, a chilling testament to the power that lay beyond his comprehension, a power both terrifying and strangely just. The line between his waking life and his dreams blurred. He was no longer just investigating a murder. He was caught in a supernatural struggle, a battle between human understanding and the ancient, unforgiving justice of the deer woman. The rain continued its relentless assault, washing away the mundane, leaving only the chilling shadow of the deer woman, and the haunting reality that some mysteries are best left unasked. His investigation wasn't about solving a crime anymore. It was about survival. The following weeks were a blur of sleepless nights and increasingly unsettling dreams. Sheriff Brody found himself consumed by the deer woman's legend, poring over ancient texts and tribal lore, desperately seeking answers that eluded him. The line between his waking life and his nightmarish visions continued to blur. He started to see the dear woman's influence everywhere. In the rustling leaves, the shadows stretching across the town, the unsettling stillness of the forest at night. The community, meanwhile, remained on edge. While some felt a dark satisfaction at Razor's demise, others lived in a state of constant, paralyzing fear. Whispers and rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by the escalating tension and inexplicable events. Strange occurrences began to plague the town. Animals behaved erratically. The weather turned capricious, and an unsettling silence descended upon the normally bustling streets at night. Some claimed to see fleeting glimpses of the dear woman at the edge of their vision, a fleeting shadow at the edge of the woods, or a pair of glowing eyes in the darkness. Brody, driven by a strange mix of fear and morbid fascination, found himself drawn deeper into the mystery. He started experiencing premonitions, flashes of images and sensations that felt both terrifying and strangely familiar. He'd wake up in a cold sweat, the scent of pine needles and blood heavy in the air. All but only the ultraviolet. He'd find himself inexplicably drawn to specific locations that were somehow connected to the dear woman's previous victims, as if an unseen force was guiding his steps. One night, in a particularly vivid dream, he saw the dear woman clearly. She was not monstrous, but hauntingly beautiful, a woman made of forest and shadow, her antlers reaching toward the heavens like twisted branches, her eyes filled with a profound sadness. She spoke to him, not in words, but in images, scenes of cruelty, of innocence lost, of a desperate need for justice. He woke up with a start, the images seared into his mind, understanding, at last, the true nature of the dear woman. She wasn't merely a vengeful spirit, she was a protector, a guardian of the land, dispensing justice for those who had no other recourse. This revelation didn't bring peace. Instead, it increased the weight of his responsibility. He knew, with a chilling certainty, that the dear woman's hunt was far from over. The delicate balance between the human world and the supernatural realm had been irrevocably shattered, and he, Sheriff Brody, was caught in the middle, a lone man standing between a vengeful spirit and a town teetering on the brink of chaos, forced to confront a truth that lay beyond human understanding. The rain continued to fall, and the Antlers' shadows stretched long and dark across the land. Sheriff Brody, haunted by his dream and burdened by the weight of his newfound understanding, knew he couldn't simply arrest the dear woman. Her actions, while brutal, were a response to the deep-seated evils plaguing his town. He had to address the root causes of her wrath to restore the balance she sought to maintain. His investigation took a new direction. He delved deeper into the history of the town, uncovering long-forgotten tales of exploitation and injustice. He unearthed evidence of environmental damage, of systemic racism and inequality, of corruption that had festered for generations. These were the real crimes, the true sources of the town's disharmony. The dear woman wasn't merely a supernatural being. She was a manifestation of the town's collective guilt, a vengeful spirit born from generations of unresolved trauma. Brody, armed with this new perspective, began to address the underlying issues. He worked with the Native American community to raise awareness about environmental protection and to promote sustainable practices. He collaborated with local activists to address systemic inequalities, tackling corruption, and fighting for social justice. He even reached out to state agencies to demand accountability for decades of environmental damage. Sadly, he faced death warrants. The changes were gradual, almost imperceptible at first. But slowly, things began to shift. The atmosphere in town became less tense. The constant fear, though not entirely eradicated, lessened. The strange occurrences became less frequent. The whispers of the deer woman, once laced with terror, now carried a hint of awe and respect. One quiet evening, as the rain finally ceased and the sun broke through the clouds, Brody found himself standing at the edge of the woods. He felt a presence, not of malice, but of a quiet, watchful guardianship. He didn't see her, but he knew she was there. The deer woman, in her own way, acknowledged the changes, a silent acceptance of the efforts made to heal the wounds of the past. Her work wasn't over, but the balance was shifting, tilting towards peace. The town, once consumed by fear, now held the faint glimmer of hope. The fight wasn't finished, but a new chapter had begun. A chapter where justice was sought, not through vengeance, but through understanding, healing, and the restoration of harmony between the human world and the ancient spirits of the land. The rain had stopped, and the antler shadow, though still present, was slowly fading into the light. The following months brought a fragile peace to the town. The dear woman's appearances became less frequent, her presence now more of a watchful guardian than a vengeful spirit. Sheriff Brody, once consumed by the mystery, found himself increasingly focused on the tangible improvements in his community. The environmental cleanup efforts gained momentum, revealing the extent of the past injustices. But long-dormant cases of corruption were reopened, bringing several powerful figures to justice. The Native community, empowered by a renewed sense of agency, played a key role in the town's revitalization, sharing their traditional knowledge of sustainable practices and community building. Brody, now hailed as a hero, not just for solving the deer woman mystery, but for addressing its underlying causes, continued his work tirelessly. He established a community center that served as a hub for social services and environmental education, fostering a sense of unity and mutual respect that had been absent for generations. He worked with local businesses to promote sustainable practices, leading to a surge of ecotourism that brought economic prosperity while preserving the natural beauty of the region. He oversaw the creation of a new park dedicated to Thomas, the young boy who had been killed, a place where children could play safely, his memory a reminder of the injustice that had fueled the deer woman's wrath. All 600 of them. One autumn evening, Brody found himself standing once more at the edge of the woods, where he'd often felt the deer woman's presence. The leaves were turning vibrant shades of red and gold, the air crisp and cool. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath of the clean air, an air now purified from decades of environmental damage. He felt a presence near him, not the chilling dread of before, but a sense of quiet understanding and a peaceful acceptance. Here was he opened his eyes and saw a single white deer standing amidst the trees, its coat gleaming in the fading light. It looked at him for a long moment, then turned and gracefully vanished into the woods. Brody knew deep in his heart that it was her, the deer woman. She wasn't gone. She was part of the land, forever entwined with its history and its future. Her work, his work, was far from over, but for now, a precarious harmony reigned, a fragile peace born from acknowledging and addressing the wounds of the past. The antler's shadow had finally begun to fade into the light.